That is what generated the request from the Congressional Research Service to me as the General Counsel for the Jesuit headquarters in the United States, asking if I could gain access to the Vatican Library to obtain the information that the Vatican has in its library, in its classified sections, to deliver to the President for his review. I did that. I contacted the Jesuit, who happens to be the head of the Vatican Library, requesting this information, and much to my surprise, I was denied information. I wrote a second letter to them saying, look, I guess you must not know who we are here. This is the Jesuit headquarters in the United States. We have 10 provinces here in the United States, more than any other country in the world, and we're requesting this information to share with the President. They still declined. So I had to report that to Marcia Smith, who was the head of the Science and Technology Division of the Library of Congress, Congressional Research Service. And she asked if I would be willing to become counsel, special counsel, to this investigation that was being conducted by the Science and Technology Committee. I agreed to do this. And I told her that I would need to have access to certain kinds of information that I would like to have declassified or get to see it. And she said, what would you like to see? And I said, well, the first thing I'd like to see is the classified sections of Project Blue Book. Those sections that have been referred to by Mr. Dolan earlier and by Gordon as not really available. Much to our surprise, I was granted permission to see them. And they brought them to Washington, and they brought them over to the Jefferson Building, the extension to the Congressional Library, before it was even open. The brand new building that they built across the street, remember? And so I was invited to come over there. I went over there. No one else was in the building. They had security people at the door. I came upon photographs of unquestioned UFOs. There wasn't any question about what they were. It wasn't a light in the sky. It wasn't a vague report about having seen something going very fast by. These were photographs, official United States Air Force photographs, some taken through gun sites, but another one of a crashed saucer on the ground. And as these planets began to multiply, the Vatican has now held an official press conference announcing that they, in fact, have now taken the position that the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence in a highly technologically developed intelligence is not inconsistent with Catholic theology. And that is what is going on right now. There are very high-level meetings going on right now with the new Pope to discuss what positions are going to be taken by the International Catholic Church with regard to the theology. My understanding is, as former chief counsel for the Jesuits, that the fact is that the Catholic Church does not want to be behind the power curve on this issue. And they realize that with the increasing contact and discovery of these additional planets, that it's going to become clear within our generation, within our lifetimes, that in fact highly technologically developed extraterrestrial intelligence actually exists. And the findings of the Congressional Research Service that were delivered to the President, to President Carter, is that based upon all of their analysis, that they have come to the conclusion, this is an official conclusion of the Congressional Research Service, that they have come to a 95% probability projection that there are from 2 to 10 highly technologically developed extraterrestrial civilizations within our own galaxy. Now, and remember, in closing, in our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, there are 50 billion star systems in our galaxy. And there are 50 billion trillion galaxies that are now known. The question, and the abiding question, and it's the one that you and I discussed last night, Congressman Bartlett, have these vehicles developed the capacity to transport vehicles beyond the speed of light? Because if they have, then all these questions now become focused. That means that they would be able to be here, come here, and go. And if they have, then all of these sightings that we've talked about, all these hundreds of witnesses that we've talked about, then are talking about a very real phenomenon. And I'll close with this one observation. When I was legal counsel for the Iran-Contra investigations, that we were the ones that actually initially discovered the Iran-Contra weapons supply trafficking. And when I delivered this information to Peter Rodino, who was at the time the chair of the Judiciary Committee of the House, through Scott Armstrong. Scott Armstrong, as you'll recall, was the staff person on Rodino's staff of the Judiciary Committee during the Watergate investigations, who discovered the taping system in the White House that Alexander Butterfield revealed this to Scott. So I went and brought this information to him, and because of his close relationship with Peter Rodino, he delivered all of the information we had about the off-the-shelf enterprise, the involvement of Poindexter and everyone else. And the response of Peter Rodino was, he said, Scott, he said, my God, he said, if what you're telling me is true about this off-the-shelf enterprise going on, delivering these weapons contrary to the orders of Congress, why then, he said, I've been telling my constituencies if they didn't like the way that American policy was going, that they should write a letter to their congressperson. And if their congressperson didn't do what they wanted them to do, you should vote for someone else for Congress. But if what you're telling me is true, Scott, my God, we haven't even been in control. I'm not going to allow the Congress of the United States to investigate anything like that. And that's the issue that's before us now. Because if, in fact, we're not in ultimate control, and there is an extraterrestrial intelligence of this type of sophistication that's been visiting our planet and entering our airspace and outmaneuvering our aircraft, it's perfectly clear that from a political consciousness that abides inside our executive branch and inside our legislature, that is not something that they want to share with the American people, because it would ultimately undermine the confidence of the governed in their governors.